Hi, and welcome to the Bookkeepers Podcast. I'm Zoe Whitman. I'm here with Jo Wood, and we're joined by Vicki Handley today. Hey, Vicky, how are you?
I'm so good. Thank you for having me. This has been on my wish list for ages, so it's great to finally kind of get on and chat with you guys.
I feel like we've known each other forever. I can't believe we haven't spoken on the podcast before. That's completely mad, isn't it?
No, it's years now. It's bizarre. But I'm here now.
Vicky, do you want to start by telling us a bit about your background and what you do?
Yeah, sure. So I'm a copywriter, I'm a copywriting strategist, and I actually do the copy as well. I'm head of client success. I'm resident copy coach inside Content to Clients, and I have my own copywriting program now as well for service-based business owners called Think Write Sell. And my whole thing is helping people to sell themselves online without selling their soul, feeling disgusting, vomiting in their mouth, all that kind of stuff that you hear all the time. So yeah, that's kind of my whole vibe.
That is very, very much needed. So for bookkeepers listening, I remember it wasn't that long ago that I used to hear this word copywriting and think, what is it? Can you give us like the 101 of what copywriting is?
Absolutely. So copywriting is writing that sells. So it is writing, it's not just about selling though, it is writing that inspires some sort of action in the person reading it, whether that's liking, whether that's engaging, whether that's buying, whether that's signing up for a webinar, like buying your stuff, booking a call, all those things. So it is a tool that you use across your customer journey and in your business as well. If you're trying to get people to do what you want, it's a tool for persuasion. So yeah, that's ultimately what it is. It's writing to sell or to inspire some kind of action in the reader.
Okay, so this is the kind of thing that when we're speaking to bookkeepers and accountants, this feels out of reach because people say to us a lot, I'm a numbers person, not a words person. I don't know how to approach this. I don't know how, I'm not ready. I'll do that later, And so where does copywriting come up in a business generally? You said you work with service businesses. So in a business generally, where do we need to consider that we need to know a little bit about copywriting?
I think everywhere. So there's this whole thing in the industry where the content is the same as copy, because content is thought of as being educational, inspiring, kind of getting to know you stuff, and then copy is kind of considered sometimes to be the more direct, like buy my things kind of stuff. I think they're interconnected, heavily interconnected, because you don't get to, so this is related to everywhere in your business, but specifically talking about socials really now. You don't get those selling opportunities without first spending time letting people get to know you and sharing your value and your worth and all those kinds of things. So I consider them right from the beginning. So in your socials, definitely on your website, in your kind of onboarding materials and any kind of places where you're having conversations with potential clients, even in your DMs, all those kinds of things, emails, all the different mechanisms that you use to connect with potential clients and clients once they're inside. I think copywriting is a fundamental skill that every business owner should master, or have someone to help them do, just to start the relationship off as strong as possible and ultimately convert those people into clients, because it's a massively underrated tool, and it's so linked to selling, which is another thing that makes people feel really, really uncomfortable. And your copy can do some of that heavy lifting for you. So why wouldn't you have it throughout that customer journey? That's the whole way that I view it. So hopefully that helps.
It does, because I've never ever thought, I would say I've never written any copy before. I've written content, but then sometimes the content I've written might encourage somebody to come to a masterclass or a webinar or join our community, sign up to the email list. So that is copy then. It's so funny when we stick out like masks in the ground and say, we are numbers people. And I'm like, I've never written copy in my life. But I obviously have.
You guys write a lot. You do it really well.
Zoe writes a lot of, but I do a little bit, but I would have never thought it was. So that's really interesting. And I think you're right. It's as soon as we start talking about selling that people start thinking like they push back. But it's more about finding your voice and talking about your values, your outlooks, what makes you laugh, what makes you cry, so that it's about getting to know people, isn't it?
Absolutely. And it's about painting a whole picture. So like I work with a lot of online businesses, and I'm in a place now where if I'm looking to invest in something, whether that's a coach, whether that's some outsourcing something within my business, I now need to feel like I have some sort of relationship with that person, whether it's an actual relationship, like I've actually spoken to them, or whether it's through consuming their content out there, it's through checking out their videos and looking at all that other stuff. I need to feel connected to that person in a way that's very different than, say, 10, 15 years ago, when things were much more standoffish and transactional. Like the way that my clients and their clients think about services is changing. And yeah, like bookkeepers especially, they just sweeping generalism here, but they tend to be quite quiet and quite kind of timid and not being out there. And there is absolutely a huge opportunity for you to just stand out there proud. And I know you guys are all about the bookkeeper rises and all this, like the rise of the bookkeeper and the value that they provide for people. And it's such a good opportunity through copy to kind of bolster your message and just make sure you've got all those bases covered with that copy, so that when you're going out and meeting people and talking to people online, it's working for you. It's doing the convincing behind the scenes, so that when you get people onto a call, it's like a warm introduction. Ultimately, that's what you're aiming for with your copy, is to inspire that action to book a call and make it like qualify people almost before they get there. So you're attracting the right people, but equally repelling the wrong ones as well.
Oh, this is great. I could have really done with your help this morning, Vicky. I've just come up with a marketing Q&A with our Success Lounge, and it's something we do every month. We talk about all sorts of different things. And one of the ladies on the call today is fairly new in business. She's an accountant, and her background is in management accounting, which is about budgets and forecasting and system improvement. And we were talking about it, and she said, I'm really struggling with my messaging at the moment, because people are coming to me and they're hearing I've got a practice, and they think, great, she can do my VAT return for me. But really, that's not the work I want to do. The focus I have is on this sort of budgeting and management accounting. So I'm talking to her about, okay, so what does that mean? Why do people need it? And I was trying to pull out her stories, and we found out that she has helped lots of people, or she helps with basically getting investment. So the reason they need those management reports is because businesses that are of a certain size are going for investment for some kind of project. So we spoke about that and what the pillars are that she might be talking about in terms of, I help people with their systems. And because that's fundamental, no one's going to invest in you unless your systems are right. Then I help you with the forecasting you need to show the investors, and then I can help you get the investment. And and once you know that, and she also came out with this brilliant story about how she'd managed to get someone £3 million of investment. But which is great, because thankfully we've been on this journey for a while, so we know what we need to be talking about. But when you don't know those things and you're not asking yourself the right questions to really get to the root of who you are, who you help, why you're the person to help them, it's really hard. So just thinking about that example, if you see yourself as not a writer and you're trying to understand what your messaging is, what kind of things should you be thinking about to pull out the bits that that are going to help? You said getting people on a call who are like warm and ready to buy from you. How do you get them to that point? What do you need to find out about yourself to help with that?
So with my clients, we have like a really kind of in-depth kind of form where I get really, really clear on, this is before we meet. So I get really clear on their business objectives. So with the messaging stuff, that's all great. And that is really, really important. But I think it's also really important to understand exactly what you're trying to achieve from your copy. First and foremost, like, what is the objective here? What am I trying to get people to do? So always having that front of mind in line with what your business objectives are for the next sort of quarter or half year or full year, depending on how you structure your business and how you plan in your business. In terms of the messaging, always be thinking about the transformational impact that you have. Like, what is the impact of your work together, and what is the point behind it? Like Liv just said, this lady helps people to get investment and has managed to achieve a £3 million for someone, which is incredible. People get stuck in the doing, like the stuff that they do on a daily basis, whether that's VAT returns, whether that's sorting out investment, all those kinds of bits and bobs. But what they forget is what their offer actually is. So as you've said, like for that particular person, it's getting companies ready for investment. It's actually securing investment. For somebody that's doing the day-to-day procedural stuff, like bookkeeping was the first thing that I outsourced, because I am a words person, not a numbers person. So I was like, get rid of that. I don't want it. I can't deal with it. So for somebody that that I was working with when I was looking for something, that they were talking about things like giving me clarity over my numbers, taking away the pressure of knowing, and the fear and the kind of anxiety I'd get when it was invoicing time, all those kinds of things. That's the way. Think about what the real life impact is of the day-to-day stuff that you're doing, because we talk a lot, like people talk about like those VAT returns, they talk about, I don't know, compliance stuff, they talk about like the practical things that they do, but not the underlying reasons why and the actual impact it has on those business owners. For me, bookkeeping was the worst thing in the world. I would dread it. I would get into this kind of like almost like rage just before I had to do my invoices, because I was just like, I hate this so much. I just got my back up. I didn't understand it. So if you can channel those feelings of that, but like that, whatever that ideal client is feeling about their bookkeeping, about their could be anything really, about their investment, getting their business sorted, ready for sale, you know, all those kinds of things, sit there and work those out, and then things become much easier. So yeah, always think about that transformational impact and what that looks like in real life for people. So that's the first thing that I'd say. And then also in terms of your messaging, if you're looking to attract the right people and you're getting the wrong people, you need to start thinking about what could be attracting those wrong people in the first place. Are you making it crystal clear what you do and what you don't do? Because for a lot of people, not just bookkeepers and accountants, but everybody, myself included, a lot of the time we don't actually talk about our services. We don't actually talk about our offers. We don't actually talk about what it is that we're selling, or in a way that people can understand. So when I'm working with clients, I consider there to be 6 things that help you build a well-rounded personal brand on LinkedIn, but also across your whole business, really. And there are 6 things that I call them my 6 copywriting lenses. And I'll just quickly, if it's okay, I'll just run through them with you now so people can start thinking about them and applying them. And what happens when you apply these lenses and you try to fit what you're doing through these lenses is you create a well-rounded presence that helps people really understand what you're about, and also really what you're not about. Because what we're trying to do with our copy, content, all the stuff is get people to filter out before they get to that call, so that you're like, if they're clearly the wrong person, if they're looking for day-to-day stuff and you do end of year stuff, or you're doing the management account side of things, you want them to know that's not your bag before they get to that point. So the lenses that I kind of touched on one already, which is people, and that is getting really, really clear on who you actually want to serve, whether that is the people you're currently serving or if they meet a slightly different demographic, and the kind of the pain points, the problems that they're experiencing. So that's lens number 2. And also the desire on the flip side of that. So for me, when I was looking for my bookkeeper, it was, I don't want to deal with this anymore. And my desire is to understand what the hell is going on with my numbers, the numbers side of my business, without having to do it myself. Then there's the process side. And this is the bit that a lot of people forget, which is talking people through, helping them to understand how you work with people. So when, like, a lot of the time when this is for earlier stage businesses, they don't really know what working with a bookkeeper looks like. They don't know what working with a copywriter looks like. They don't know what working with a coach looks like. So it kind of works across the board, really, whatever your service. So spell it out, talk them through how you do things. Talk them through what your entire process looks like, or what individual pieces of your process look like. Like, what does a discovery call look like? What is the pre-work for that? How do you get the information that you need from your clients to be able to do the bookkeeping side of things? And how you do things will be very different to how other people do things. Obviously, you're in a regulated industry, so there will be ways that you have to do things, but there will be things that you do differently, and reasoning behind the ways that you're doing things as well. And then you've got your practical information as well. Like, so if you're getting wrong stage companies coming to you, for example, so you're getting companies that are nowhere near ready for investment, but that's the kind of people that you want to serve, you need to be giving people the practical information about where they need to be to work with you. So in terms of that could be whether like they've been in business 4 or 5 years, they've hit a certain turnover level, certain profit margin, whatever, but working in a specific industry, they need to have this, like the things they need to have in place to get the most from working with you, and vice versa, like who you're not right for as well. I do this every so often, and I'll just do a post and I'm like, I am not the person to do your copy for you if you're not willing to do ABC, or if you're looking for DEF, you know, just kind of going through those steps and those motions. Then there's proof as well, which is the fifth lens. And this is one that, again, people really, really resist. I guess because it's the flip side of selling, it's showing off, or that's how people perceive it to be. But you've got to share your wins, like your clients' wins, within the limits of what you're able to do, because, you know, confidentiality and all that stuff. But so any kind of social proof, like testimonials, videos, if you can get them, are like the gold standard. Screenshots of like successes and things that you can get, be sharing those, and also talking about the conversations that you're having with people as well, like on calls, and in the, like, you guys, like having a bookkeeper changed my business. Like it was a mess before, and then it suddenly was structured and organized, and I understood what was happening and I knew it was right, so I had that reassurance. So it's just sharing those things that you hear from clients and just say, right, this is what we've been doing, this is how they're feeling now. Because even if you don't have that direct evidence to back it up, you're talking through and you're showing your worth, and you're showing that this is your bread and butter, this is what you're doing every single day, and it's just a natural part of what happens. And then the most important lens, which I almost feel is like a tint that you apply to all of them, is personality. Now, that doesn't mean your deepest, darkest secrets on the internet. Like, don't do that. Remember that your personal brand is yours. You set the limits of what you're willing to share. But again, going back to that point that I made earlier, clients feel, or prospective clients feel, like they need to have a relationship, some sort of connection with people that they're seeking out, especially if they're going to be working closely with this person. So if you give them the opportunity to get to know you, whether that's what you like to do in your spare time, or how you specifically approach your work and your background and how you've got here and all the rest of it, you're instantly going to feel more connected to that person, and it speeds up that know, like and trust factor, and it takes you off a pedestal as well, because I think a lot of people have still got that vision in their mind of like a dinosaur accountant and a kind of a very kind of transactional relationship, when actually a bookkeeper can be integral to your business. They become a core part of your team. So you need to, and a core part of your business, kind of keeping it running ultimately. So getting the money in and taking care of the money out, you know, all that kind of stuff. So it's giving them that opportunity to get to know you, the business owner, and how you do things, but also a bit of your personal side as well. So yeah, that was a bit of a monologue. I apologize, but yeah, those 6 lenses.
No, thank you. That was really helpful. And you just got me thinking about, you said about being on a pedestal and having this, lots of people have this idea that a bookkeeper or an accountant looks a particular way. I can relate to this from the point of thinking about a financial advisor. I can remember still getting my first mortgage, and the lady who sorted my mortgage out was called Lisa, and she had an office above the estate agent. And going to see Lisa, who had like lots of brown files and stuff, made me feel like very intimidated. And but yet the financial advisor I work with now, and I've worked with for a long time, I can remember when I met her, I didn't at that time directly compare her to Lisa, but in my mind I was like, oh, this is different. This is like someone who gets it. Like, this is, I've never had a chat like this before. And we want people to feel like that. But of course we're going to be different to another bookkeeper or accountant that someone speaks to. Like, we're not for everyone. Like, I know for sure I'm not everyone's cup of tea, and that's okay. So it's finding the people that you are their cup of tea. But how do you get really good at building that personal brand? Like, with do we even, I don't know, this is one of the things we talk about, personal brand, all the time in the program, in our success program. Is it for bookkeepers? Are bookkeepers allowed a personal brand, and how do we get good at it?
Absolutely. I think everyone should have one. I really do. I mean, I'm biased because this is what I do, but like, but I think everybody, it's like your shop window, right? Like having like your website, obviously, as well. I think it absolutely is for bookkeepers, especially because you're not everybody's cup of tea. Like, I think you should be putting yourself out there, and anyone with a business should be, or trying to sell themselves or their services online. I want to attract the right people, and I think by being vanilla and not doing anything, you're kind of just going to get those clients that are looking for any bookkeeper. Whereas if you're putting yourself out there consistently and to a high quality, which comes with practice, I look back at some of my original content and I'm like, yikes. But yeah, it's you have to be consistent, and you have to be willing to give something of yourself to help get that across. The moment that I dyed my hair green and put on my glasses, like my new fancy glasses that they were leopard print ones at the time, like, and I was willing, I mean, I'm not a bookkeeper, but still the point still stands the same. But the moment I was willing to step into who I am, not who I wanted to be, but who I actually am, and was comfortable with the fact that that was going to be horrible for some people, and they're just going to be like, oh no, I don't like this. That was when the right people started coming out of the woodwork, whether that was clients, whether that was collaborators, whether that was friends, whatever. That was the moment in my business that things really, really took off. Because up until that point, although I was producing content, I was hiding. I wasn't sharing myself. I was kind of perpetuating what I thought professionals should look like and how I should present myself, and kind of using like my employee background as well, like how you should perform at work. But it was the moment when I was like, this is exhausting. Like I hid most of myself and just talked about boring stuff, like how to write a good hook, like, you know, like the kind of vacuous content that's Googleable or ChatGPTable now. But the moment that I gave myself permission, and I think this is a problem with a lot of people, particularly women running businesses, is that you don't give yourself permission to have an opinion, or to take a stand on something, or to talk about what you're selling and how people can work with you. But the moment you start doing that, people understand that you're selling something. The risk that I see a lot, like the risk of not being out there, of not talking to people, of not DMing, of not putting content out there, is that people don't know you exist, or you're just another bookkeeper. When you are out there, whatever that looks like, you are in people's peripheral vision. Okay, they probably won't be in the market when they first come across you. I think it's something like, there's a tiny proportion, I think it's like between 1% and 5% of your whole audience are ever in the market at one point, or something like that. Don't quote me on that stat, but it's around those numbers. But what you're trying to do is stay in that peripheral vision, so that when somebody is ready, or they have a conversation with somebody who's ready, because everyone's got their own networks, they remember you and they think, I know who you need to talk to, and this is that person, for whatever reason, whether it's because they've got green hair and glasses and you like them, whether it's because of a post that you put out that was really, really insightful and helpful about a particular process, whether someone's had a bad experience with a dinosaur accountant and they know that you are not that, like you are not that person, and like you should have a conversation with this person. And that's all we're doing with content, with copy, with the whole shebang, is just helping people connect with us, make associations, and act on those associations when the time is right. So yeah, I think everybody should be out there talking about themselves, because the opportunities that I have now are because I've put myself out there. If I didn't put myself out there, my business would still be turning over 20k a year. Now we're over 6 figures, which is incredible, and I still can't quite believe it sometimes. But like, and not everyone's looking for that. Like, don't get me wrong, not everybody's looking for a huge, they're not like looking for world domination, but the quality of opportunities changes when you put yourself out there and are willing to kind of take a bit of a risk of standing out, putting your head above the parapet, if you like. So yeah, again, thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
Love it, Vicky. I could listen to you forever. You said something about not being vanilla, and instantly in my mind, I get triggered in a way of thinking that you're saying, and you weren't saying that, this just in my internal dialogue, that I need to be provoking things and I need to be standing out and saying things that are divisive and all of that. And I can honestly say that I have never written anything which is like that. I don't ever say anything about politics. I don't ever check in at a hospital and say, oh, DM me for more info about why I'm at A&E. Or I don't do anything that's clickbaity, or I feel that actually is my true, like, honest opinions like that. because that has actually is what I'm like in real life. Me and Zoe don't discuss politics together. We don't talk about the news or anything. We both, but that's just not how we are. So why would I do that online? Why would I call out that? For me, calling out someone's bad behavior that I see online, if I saw someone doing something, like, I don't know, throwing rubbish on the floor outside, I would definitely, like, especially if it's a teenager, I might say something, but I wouldn't do it to like an adult, like, and have a go at people in the street.
It's like our kind of view on gossip, right? Like, I hate gossip, and like, you know, if we're both really uncomfortable if we're like in a situation that there's like, we're like, don't want to know, don't need to know, nothing to do, you know. And I think it's that's what you're saying, isn't it? It's like being true to yourself.
Yeah,
just act like you. And so if something's making you feel uncomfortable and you're thinking, oh, should I be posting about that? Makes me feel uncomfortable. If you wouldn't do it in real life, don't do it online.
Absolutely.
That's what I think I'm saying.
Totally agree with you. I totally agree with you. And I don't advocate for kind of, you know, sort of being divisive on purpose. Like, politics is a no-go for me, and I don't do it for my clients either. I'm like, we don't talk about this because it is so, people get so het up and emotional about it, and obviously with the stuff going on in the world at the moment, not surprising. But I don't advocate creating so something that I do which probably the wrong terminology to use is I talk about creating an enemy, and I'm not talking about people here, I'm talking about practice in the industry. So for example, your dinosaur accountant or whatever, or something specific in the industry that you don't like, and this is how you overcome it. So I do talk about that stuff, because what that does is draws out potential people who are looking for a different way of doing things. But absolutely, like, I use pain a lot in my marketing to pull out the problems that people are experiencing, but some of my clients aren't comfortable with that, so they use the desire angle instead. It is always about, it is a tool for you to use. Copy is a tool, and the way that you choose to go about using it, you can use it for good or evil, right? Like everything. But you can absolutely kind of turn it around to focus on what feels comfortable for you. And if you wouldn't say something in real life to a real human in front of you, don't be posting about it online. Don't be giving homeless people things just to take a photo of you giving a homeless person a thing. You know, those kinds of horrendous things you see. Don't talk about, like, I've seen posts recently where it's people like, I got engaged, this is what it taught me about client acquisition, or my gran just died, this is what it taught me about ageism in the workplace, and like these horrendous like segues. And I don't advocate any of that, because it's just very weird. You don't have to have a business lesson in there. Like, it doesn't have to be a business lesson in everything that you're putting out there. Sometimes you can just talk about what interests you, what you love about what you do, and like what's going on in your life. But you can also talk about everyday things, and that doesn't make you vanilla. So like, one thing that I do with my clients all the time when we're doing our content sessions is like, right, open your diary for me. And they're like, what? And I'm like, open up your calendar, you don't have to show me, just have a look at it and pick 3 things that you did this week, like whether that's deep work, whether that's meeting a team member, whether that's talking to a client, you know, it can be anything at all. And I'm like, just tell me about that. What happened? What went well? What didn't go well? What could have been better? Like, what kind of things did you discuss? All those those individual interactions with people and the everyday stuff that you're doing. We think it's really boring. We think it's vanilla because we do it all the time. But actually, those kind of peeking behind the curtain kind of posts where you get a little glimmer of behind the scenes of what it's actually like running your business is really important. It's really important, and it's really interesting for people as well, because it kind of gives them an insider's look, I guess, into what it's actually like working with you. So although I said vanilla, maybe that was a bad word choice, I don't know, but it's what I'm talking about with vanilla content really is just the stuff that everybody's churning out. So it's like 3 tips to improve this, or just really like content or copy that lacks any sort of depth, I think is what I'm getting at here. So like, I'll use copywriters as an example. I don't understand why copywriters do this, but I'm in a bit of an echo chamber because a lot of my audience is that kind of that demographic. But they'll talk about writing a good call to action, writing a good hook. They'll talk about all this surface level stuff, but they'd never get into the detail of why it's important, or why it should be interesting, or why it matters. And that is the stuff that gets you inquiries, that gets you into conversations, and ultimately gets you clients. So again, your personal brand is yours. You make the rules, you set the red lines you won't cross. And don't be like horrible. Don't be a horrible human. Does not serve anyone.
No, but that, you know, I agree, and I think that's I do want everyone to be happy and love each other. That's literally my goal in life, but I know it isn't possible. And I also, you really helped me just think about, like, I mean, the enemy in the industry is what you said. The enemy in the industry for me is that work doesn't work for women who've had children. Like, that is the enemy here. So, you know, and if I can speak about that, that hopefully will help people know that we're trying to change that for parents particularly. So that's really helpful to think about, anyone who's listening to this. What about like using your voice, Vicky? Because the way you have a style, that's probably the way to describe it. So it's like when you're reading, you want to know you're hearing from Vicky. How do you work out what that is? Is that about, how do you work out how you write? Because I want to sound like ChatGPT, but what really want to sound like?
So a lot of the time with this, the problem isn't the writing, it's the editing. So what I say to them, I'll explain what I mean in a minute, but but one of the best ways that I learned how I write was actually to speak. And I know that sounds really, really weird, but for ages, I was putting stuff out there as a copywriter, and it was just boring. It was generic. It was like, this is right at the start, and anybody could have written it. And that is what I actively try and avoid for my clients, because I want to make sure that I'm capturing them, as you say, because if it's content anyone could write, then why would they hire someone at a premium price to do that for them? So one of the things that I do with my clients is just look at stuff that you write for your clients. So have a bit of a file, I guess, of emails that you send when you explain stuff. If you record your calls, look at the transcripts, because that will give you some insights into your mannerisms and the way that you talk. Like, I know I say kind of a lot and things like that, but to kind of, there you go, did it then, to give myself time to think about what I'm about to say next. So you'll pick up your mannerisms if you're reading a transcript of what you actually say when you talk, and then you become aware of like little phrases that you use and other things that you can then add into your copy to make it sound more like you. What else can you do? Sometimes, particularly with people that struggle with writing at all, or don't like it, or it feels really unnatural, something that I recommend that they try is voice noting themselves talking about a subject. Because for a lot of people, when it comes to the actual writing process, they go back to school mode. So they just, when you're having conversation with somebody, you structure what you're talking about in a certain way. And like for some people, speaking is much more natural than writing. When they come to write what they would say, they like turn it into like an essay or something that they would do at school, or they add in lots of words that make them sound not clever, not on purpose, but they just change the feel of what they're saying. They lose the warmth. Ultimately, that's one of the things that they do, and they kind of lose the humanity a little bit as well. So one of the problem I think with a lot of people is they will write something and then they will edit themselves out of it completely, because they put content or copy on a pedestal. And they think that there has to be this wonderful, perfect, profound thing that's got to go out there. It's got to be worthy of posting it. So that's one of the problems that I see a lot. And I had this issue as well, like at the beginning when I first started putting myself out there, because I'm resisting it because I'm a bit scared of it. So I'm going to try and make myself come across as knowledgeable as possible. And actually what you do there is you lose that humanity. So one of the things that I recommend is don't edit for polish. Never edit for polish, because if you try and polish it up, you lose yourself. You take out your little mannerisms, you take out the examples, you make it sound overly formal, and you kind of lose people along the way. And I also recommend that you set yourself a timer and you say, right, I'm going to write about, I don't know, VAT return. That's in my head for some reason. I'm going to write about VAT returns today, and I'm giving myself 15 minutes to do it, or whatever the timer, the actual time frame is, you know, whatever's good for you. I just say 15 because that's how long it takes me. Probably takes you guys a bit longer. But yeah, and then I'm like, it's going out after 15 minutes. So what I write in this moment needs to be get the important stuff out there and across as quickly as possible. And I haven't got time to edit myself out of it. And actually, when you operate under that constraint of like that time limit, it really focuses your mind. It's like, right, okay, what are the key things I need to say, and how can I say it in the most efficient way possible? And that really, really helps. So that's another way. But the main way that you find your voice is through practice. And like some people are really, really scared of starting until they found their voice. But until you practice writing, it is a muscle, right? It's a muscle that you flex. It's not a God-given talent. It's not something that can't be taught. It's not something that can't be learned. And you get to quality through quantity. And that's quite other copywriters are probably like, oh my goodness, I can't believe she just said that. But it's absolutely true, because it's like with anything, when you start, you're a bit rubbish. Like that's absolutely fine, and you're okay with that. You become okay with that. But those first few posts, no one's going to see them anyway, like, because you haven't got that audience that's looking for you and looking out for your stuff. So the more that you practice, and the more consistent you are, so the more willing you are to post a lot or post more than you are currently now, the quicker you'll get to that quality, and the quicker you will start to see what actually resonates with people and what doesn't resonate with people. But there is so much fear over those initial first few posts and actually starting to do it, that the best advice I can give you is record yourself speaking about something, transcribe it, and then just pop it out. Like, imagine you're talking to a client, even if you're just talking about what you're doing on a daily basis. The problem is that people put it on a pedestal, as I've said, and they feel they need to showcase something. They feel it has to be amazing and it has to be worthy, like it has to be an award or it has to be something fancy and wonderful, when actually the best performing content usually is just a peek at what you're doing day to day. So that's where I recommend that you start. Just talk about a conversation you had with a client, obviously within the limits of confidentiality and all the rest, or talk about a conversation you had with a colleague, or an experience that you had in a past life, like a past career or whatever, or why you started your business. Those kinds of things that feel easier to write for a lot of people because they're invested in the story behind it. Obviously you can learn copywriting frameworks and all the rest of it, but people want to hear from you, the person, not necessarily you, the bookkeeper. I know you're like intertwined, but as to get people to get to know you at the start, just let them get to know you. Just start with some, like, you could if you wanted to, you could even do like a month of just get to know me stuff. Like, this is who I am, this is what I'm about, this is where I started, this is how I got here. I had children, I wanted to start my own practice, and here I am, those kinds of things. And then as you build your confidence, then you move into, this is how I help people, and this is what that looks like, and this is how you can buy from me. You know, so you're kind of gradually like leveling up as you go. So you start off with the stuff that feels easy, and then you push the limit of what feels comfortable just a little bit, and then just a little bit more, and then just a little bit more. And over time, you won't give a crap anymore. Honestly, the most important thing is that it's out there, not that it's perfect. So yeah, hopefully
that was so helpful, Vicky. Thank you so much. I feel like this is one everyone needs to go back to the beginning and get a notebook.
100%. I was writing notes. I've been making notes. It was amazing. Thank you, Vicky.
Yeah,
no, that's my pleasure.
Vicky, so you have your own program. I know you're part of C2C as well. Can you tell me a bit about how people can connect with you and work with you, please?
Yeah, absolutely. My pleasure. Okay, so there's various ways you can work with me. You can join Content to Clients if you want, and then you'll see a lot of me as head of client success and resident copy coach. People can connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm always on there. I'm Vicki Handley, and I'm the one with the green hair. There's not many of us, so yeah, you're easy to find there. My business is called Quirk Copywriting as well, if you wanted to have a look online. And ways you can work with me: I write for people if they really don't want to do it themselves. But probably the most exciting thing that I'm doing is my copywriting program for service-based business owners. We're kicking off in September for the next cohort. And what I do is I help business owners think, write, and sell their way to higher revenue and business growth. And what we do in that is we tackle a lot of this stuff that we've been talking about. We get really clear on the thinking, because once you think like a copywriter, you can act like one and you can learn the skills. So we start with that, and then we move into social posts and how to, like, using my six lenses to help you create those. Then we look at landing pages, which again is direct copywriting. It is literally buy my stuff, book the call, sign up for this, whatever. And then we also look at email sequences as well, which look at welcoming, nurturing, and converting clients too. So that's the most exciting thing that I do, and it's unique because you get the course materials, but you also get personalized feedback and lots of access to me. So yeah, that's what I'm up to really at the moment.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Oh, it's been fab. Well, everyone go and connect with Vicky. Thank you for tuning into the podcast, and we'll see you next week for another episode. Take care.
Amazing. Thank you. Bye.